I'm here with Keith Gore. Keith Gore is running for the 296th District Court, and he's running against the incumbent, John R. Roach, Jr. Thank you for talking to us today.
Thanks for having me.
Let's go right into it, if you would, Keith. My first question would be to ask you to describe the role of a district judge and tell my readers why you think that you're the best choice for this job.
All right. Well, I mean, obviously, a district court judge, as any judge, presides over the court, but district courts are a little bit different than the county courts of law, for example. They have jurisdiction over family law cases, civil cases, and then also felony cases, and then some certain types of misdemeanors involving accusations of, for example, official misconduct. But in Collin County, we have courts of general jurisdiction, meaning they're intended to hear all three of those types of cases. And the 296th District Court is a unique court currently because, as you said, the current judge, John Roach Jr., has a conflict of interest, so he's unable to hear criminal cases because his father is the district attorney. But that conflict of interest is going to go away next January because John Roach Sr. is not running for re-election as district attorney. So the 296th District Court will once again be a full general jurisdiction court, meaning that criminal cases will be heard again. So I think it's important that the voters of Collin County understand that, and that they understand that the judge going forward in that court needs to have a grounding in all areas of the law, family, civil, and criminal. And I would encourage the voters of Collin County to really look at my background and the background of my opponent and come to their own determination about who's better qualified to handle all areas of the law. I think philosophically, when you look at the role of a judge and what a judge should do, I think a judge should come to the bench every day with an understanding that it's a true honor and privilege to serve, and that judges are serving, and that it's not about the personality or the will of the judge. It should be about the parties and the facts of the cases that come before the court. And so my view is judges should allow the parties to try their cases, and that judges should not allow their personalities to become involved in the case, and should allow for the case to proceed, and the judges should make sure that a fair trial is had.
Thank you. Go into a little bit more on your background. Tell us a little bit about your background and how it qualifies you to be a judge.
Okay. I pretty much got my start in the Dallas County District Attorney's Office. This is back in the late 90s. And I prosecuted there as a chief misdemeanor prosecutor, and then I was a felony prosecutor as well, and handled everything from DWIs up to more serious cases like murder. After working there for approximately a year and a half, I moved to McKinney. My wife is from McKinney, and her family was here. And we moved up here, and I began my law practice. I worked for myself, and I've also worked in another firm. Another attorney and I had a partnership, and then he went on to become a judge. But in my private practice, I handled some family law cases and did some matters involving child protective services, and did civil cases as well, representing some businesses and individuals in civil matters. But the majority of my cases, I would say, were criminal cases, where I've handled in my private law practice everything, again, from DWI up to capital murder. I'm qualified to handle capital murder cases. And I think that's an important distinction between me and my opponent. When Collin County has capital murder cases, as you know, there are special rules, special requirements. The cases are extremely important and costly for Collin County, and we're not in a position to train our judges on the job. We need judges who understand those areas of the law from the beginning.
Thank you very much. My second question is going to be a little bit more difficult, and I know you can't comment and remain within the canons of ethics on things that have happened or things that might happen. But in general terms, I'll go and say that we've been reading, our citizens and I have been reading a lot about the Collin County District Courts in the last couple of years, probably too much. Usually that's one of those things where no news is good news. And because a lot of that news has been critical. if you're elected, you're only one of 9 district judges. But how do you see, what can you do to assure the citizens and the voters of Collin County that when they're in that courthouse in McKinney, that they're there to see the justice being done?
I think one of the most important things that a judge can do is not to overcomplicate it. With me, I have a simple phrase that I focus on in the cases that I have, and the approach that I would bring to the court is simply to put the Constitution first. And so a lot of the problems that I think you're referring to, they come about for several different reasons, but judges are in a unique position to make sure that when a party, whether that's the prosecution or the defense, is attempting to do something that runs afoul of the Constitution, we need judges with the internal fortitude to tell either side, whether that's the prosecution or the defense, that the answer is no. Whatever type of request that might be, if it runs afoul of the Constitution.
Thank you. And very quickly, because we really are out of time, we're over our time limit now, but I want to get it in. There's been a lot of news around the state about new things that have been happening in courts and in the prosecution, especially some of the experiences that Dallas County has had with its new DA and with its Innocence Commissions. Do you see any lessons there for Collin County?
I do. I think that judges in particular, and our courts, our general jurisdiction courts here in criminal cases, have to be extra sure that, one, every citizen accused has competent and effective counsel as required by the Sixth Amendment. That's the first thing. And secondly, all post-trial relief that's provided in the law really has to be given full effect for individuals that are asserting their innocence after conviction. So what that means to me is the law provides these mechanisms, and our courts have to ensure that they are used by those who are seeking redress of a plain grievance. If it turns out that they're guilty, they need to serve their sentence. But if they're innocent, I can't imagine a greater travesty of justice than for them to suffer in prison when they don't deserve it.
Thank you very much, Keith. I appreciate your time and your willingness to answer these questions.
Thanks for having me.